So now we've got a natural progression of topics of what happened in Atlanta on Saturday that now affects the ACC championship race and also the college football playoff rankings that were released on Tuesday. So, my biggest takeaway from watching every play of that game, which to a neutral person was a pretty entertaining football game, was that you had Jamal Haynes, their top rusher, 1,000-yard rusher, rips off 65-16, scores a touchdown, boom. And then he gets hurt. And they already had their number 2 guy, Alexander, hurt. They were playing with a 4th-string running back at one point in that game for a long period of that game, Cooley. But it didn't necessarily matter because it was Haynes King running the ball most of the time. And them doing this crazy, which I typically bash, flip-flopping quarterbacks back and forth, not per series, sometimes play to play, and ripping up Miami's rush defense for roughly 275 yards, something in that range, which was the highest rushing total against a Miami defense since the infamous 2020 game against North Carolina, which was, again, I was slapped across the face with that number at 554. That's just unbelievable.
It was 554 total offense. It was more than 300.
Oh, okay. Well, then they misrepresented that because I thought they didn't run for 5. Okay, they probably ran for 320 or something. Okay, that aside, that sets us up for what I thought was the most important takeaway from that game was the Miami rush defense. And then we've got the question coming in from Ashley. Ashley, we appreciate you being here. I can't be the only one tired of watching 0 and 7 at safety, especially 0 with horrible angles, poor tackling. At some point, Markeith needs to get in with Zaquan.
Yeah, man, AJ, appreciate it. And I maybe just blacked out there. They did run the ball 55 times for 554.
Okay.
That game. I went to go look it up to be, that's right. They had almost 800 yards of offense in that game. Oh my God, that's right. Yeah, they did run it for 554. Jesus. Yeah, they really, no, that's not that was me.
All right.
Mandela effect, maybe just trying to remove the trauma. But yeah, AJ, man, good to see hear from you, man. I saw you text me the other day. I appreciate that, bro. It just, the safety play has to be better. Like, I don't really care who it is, but like, Mish Powell playing in so many different spots, he's number 0. And, like on the, 3rd and 18 to start the 4th quarter, he passed off the was it Y over or Y cross, if you on college football, like the Y, the tight end or the inside slot, just running a crossing, a kind of banana route, like kind of over the middle of the field. He passed that route off to somebody. You saw it, like just like I'm pointing here. He goes, hey, yeah. Except for just like in this room, there's nobody behind me. There was nobody behind him because they had another assignment. So I don't know if it was him but like there was miscommunication there.
That was the long throw to the sideline.
No, right? That was over the middle, the first play of the 4th quarter.
Okay.
There was another one of those. See, there's so many that we get them mixed up. The thing about it, and like Jaden Harris, bad angles, missed assignments, missed tackles. Like Jamal Haynes, to your point earlier, I mean, made him twerk and touch ground on that touchdown run with just it was a good juke move, shimmy shake. I'm not going to say that it's easy to tackle a guy running downhill in space, but like you got to do better than that, bro. And like, yeah, I think if it's Markeith Williams, as AJ said, if it's Zaquan Patterson, I'm really kind of upset because it was told by all accounts and to all people that Zaquan Patterson was working with the ones in warmups, through practice last week, all kinds of stuff like that. He played a handful of snaps, like a literal handful. And we're watching, 0 and 7, miss tackles and take bad angles and miscommunicate this and miscommunicate that. I'll put a freshman out there and have him miscommunicate who could actually make tackles. You know what I mean? Like if all things are being equal and the performance isn't where it needs to be. So yeah, I mean, Manny Navarro during the Duke game screamed at me at halftime. Basically for it was like, you are too smart to be pretending to be this stupid. Everybody knew that the secondary was the issue of the year. They can't match up. They can't play man to man. So Duke is finding ways to dial it up. I know, look, there's no team in America that is rolling everybody 62-3 every week. There's nobody doing that. So sometimes you're going to get tested. Sometimes you're not going to get stops. Shut up. Enjoy the ride. This team is probably going to come back and win. You'll be good. And like, there was a collection of people around, and I was just like, Manny, you're right, bro. And yeah, but when I say all that to say, Miami had been playing a very high variance kind of football, right? It came down to one or two plays in all of these other games, but they were able to make those plays. Plays in the first quarter count too, right? Cam Ward had Sam Brown on a slot fade for a touchdown, overthrew him by about that much and missed him. On that same drive, on the third down, that was the incompletion to the corner of the end zone. Elijah Arroyo is still running butt naked, wide open down the middle of the field in Atlanta. Like, guys, like I wouldn't be surprised if the whole team is back on campus going to class and he's still standing there in the middle of the field. Like, guys, you forgot me. You left me. I'm here wide open. Missed him. As in, didn't throw it in his direction and incomplete the pass. Didn't see him and threw the ball somewhere else. Throughout the course of this season, those plays get made, Miami wins the game. To me, the most, apart from 271 rushing, which was 3 times nearly Miami's average coming into this game, which was allowing 95.3 yards rushing per game. The thing that killed Miami were money downs on both sides. Georgia Tech was 9 for 14 on third down. And if I go over to their third downs, they were 7 for their first 10, on third downs. They went 2 and 2 on the last 4, but 70%, bro. And I mean, okay, it ends at 64 point whatever, but like that. And Miami had previously been the best third down defense, as in not allowing conversions in America, right? On the other side, Miami's offense was the best at converting third downs, and when they went for them, fourth downs, but they go 3 for 10 on third and 1 for 4 on fourth, and still had 436 yards and right? But that right there at the top, as I'm pointing at my screen, that right there at the top, third down efficiency, not getting off the field, and third down efficiency and fourth down, not moving the chains. That to me was the story of the game. And when you look at it, and I'm going to, because I still leave these stats up every week just for this very reason, Miami had drives that ended on the Georgia Tech 23, 39, and 28-yard line. So 3 drives that ended inside the Georgia Tech 40 and scored a combined 0 points on those 3 drives. That's your game. So now you back those up with on downs, those fourth down, non-conversions that we're seeing. That's that. It goes hand in hand. Now, I muted somebody on Twitter because they were being stupid and saying the singular reason that Miami lost was the 11-minute drive spanning the first into the second quarter that Georgia Tech went on. That was a factor, but that was not what lost Miami the game. Miami had the ball, and even though he couldn't see him because it was like 8 seconds later, Jacoby George was open for a game-winning touchdown late on the middle on that scramble drill. Miami had the ball with a chance to go down the field and score, just like they did at Cal, and then maybe play a couple of plays of defense. That opportunity was in Miami's hands. In so many spots this year, we've seen them go down the field and score, right? Now, would it have been easier with a longer time of possession? And Miami going into this game was 3rd or 4th in the country in terms of time of possession per game? Absolutely, it would have been. But saying that one drive, singularly, that one right there, 17 plays, 75 yards, 10 minutes, 45 seconds. I just been calling it 11-minute drive. That was a factor for sure. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that it was not. It was not the singular reason that Miami lost. Excuse me. So, yeah, a lot of the things looked like things that we had seen. You get that beautiful dime touchdown pass to Elijah Arroyo on the first drive where, they run a double switch concept, because you had the motion, which was a switch, and then Sam Brown with a switch, and then you have Arroyo just going straight up the seam. Ball gone before he even looked. He turned around, and that was like a self-preservation. Oh, shit. It's going to hurt me kind of catch.
Yeah.
On the first, boom, cool. They went to the half roll to the left, the waggle to the left, out and up, wheel route kind of. Well, it wasn't a wheel route; it was out and up to Xavier Restrepo, the one that they hit at Louisville that he got stumbled over the 5-yard line instead of scoring. They hit that one scores, and that's another play, the same exact play that we ran at Louisville. They were crying about one of their players getting held, and he wasn't held on that one, whatever. But that same play scores. There was a lot of stuff. You see, Damian Martinez getting in there. Boom, you're moving you still have, 300 something yards passing. You have the touchdown here. You saw a lot of the things that we had seen, but we also saw things that we had not previously seen, like absolutely not being able to get off the field, absolutely not being able to convert in key situations, and playing from behind. And playing from behind is definitely was a thing that we had seen from this team. But yeah, it just you leave it to Cam Ward to play hero ball, and on the last play where he Romello Height, and I saw Gio Milian tweeted this out. If you don't know, Romello Height was he's from Georgia. At one time was committed to Miami. He went to USC. He comes back home to Georgia Tech. Miami actually was kicking the tires on bringing him to this roster this year in the transfer portal. Decided not to. He went to Auburn before. It was all over the place. Committed there, went here, da. But this is a guy who's been around the Miami Hurricanes space for a while because we, talked about him. He was committed here, da. That's the player who worked free for the strip sack on the final play. So I'm sure that he was incredibly happy about that. But on that play, Elijah Arroyo is open for a check down for about 8 yards, probably gets out of bounds. And there was somebody else in the field of play around the numbers who was open. If Cam Ward would have just said, you know what? I don't need a home run play right here. I'm just going to take these 8 yards. We're going to keep going. We got 1 minute and 35 seconds left. Got 2 timeouts. We'll be fine. Let me just go get these yards, get out of bounds. We'll keep it going. I'm confident that we would have been able to do something. But the thing for me is, and you have to take it, he wants every play to be a big play. But for me, sometimes it's like the big play isn't there. Take what's there and then give yourself another opportunity to have a big play. Because by holding that ball and getting sacked and fumbling, there were no more plays that could have potentially been a big play, right? If he would have just taken it and gotten out of bounds. But again, it's tough because Cam Ward's big play hunting has been such a boon for Miami this year. This is the one time it came up snake eyes. But yeah, there were a couple of things that just didn't go the way that they needed to. Some really bad penalties, not called, especially like there was a holding or defensive pass interference on Georgia Tech on a pass towards Isaiah Horton that would have been a touchdown, and literally they're pulling his jersey off of his shoulder pads in front of a referee, not called. I'm not saying that's not the reason that we lost, but again, all these little things put together. And I've been saying it for weeks. It's going to take somebody playing one of their better games and Miami playing one of their worst at the same time. And yeah, that's really what happened. And even I'll stop here, but to the credit of the broadcast, Louis Riddick said, "Hey, this is a team," and I tried to tell y'all this, and everybody said, "You're stupid and don't know anything." Starts hot. Cam Ward has a lull in the middle of the game. That 4 for 13, 5 for 12 for 65 and a pick kind of thing. The offense stagnates, and then we ramp it up, and then we put it in sixth gear and pull away. Louis Riddick kept saying that. He was like, "Dog, this is what Miami does. They go out there, they score fast, little wonky in the middle, and then they get they finally hit the afterburners." And we went to go hit the afterburners, and like the afterburners didn't burn. So yeah, just things that we had counted on were not there, and then things that we had avoided or built this season on having, i.e., great third down and fourth down defense and great third down and fourth down offense on our side, were completely inverted. And when you have that full inversion, you get a win turned into a loss.
I'm going to go somewhere, and I may come up empty because I've not thought about this since I actually watched the game. I've not followed up on this, but wasn't there an issue late in the game with, I thought Mario Cristobal should have called a timeout
Before
prior
the 2
to
minute.
the 2-minute timeout. He let like the last 23 seconds run off.
It wasn't that much, but it was about half that. I think it was like 13 or 12, but yes.
Yeah.
Because if I go plays fourth quarter,
Yeah, so Georgia Tech still had the ball. And yeah.
QB keeper King Hayes
220. They
runs
were going to play at 220.
So yeah, he was officially down. They have it listed at 220. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it was longer than I thought. Correct. Okay. I mean, yes, but
I guess he thought we've got plenty of time.
Right. I mean, he would rather have the ball with all 3 timeouts. The thing about it was, and I saw people screaming at him for this, coming out of the 2-minute timeout, you see that timeout Miami clock 2 minutes.
Yes, that's what it was too. No. Yes.
I'm going to give Mario credit there. They came out, Georgia Tech, with the punt team. Oh, Mario saw something. He said, "No, I don't like it. I don't like it. No, okay. I'm not ready for it. Whatever. It sucks that happened on the other side, then that call, because what he wanted was, okay, 2-minute timeout, punt us the ball. We'll have 3 timeouts, Cam Ward. That really gives us the entire field to work with, right? Boom. But on 4th and 3, if you think that you see something that's going to cost you the ability to actually have them punt, if you see something that you think can be exploited for a fake for them to convert, you're duty bound to call that timeout. You just are. Because imagine if he hadn't called that timeout, whatever he saw to be exploited was exploited, and Georgia Tech converts there and wins the game on that play. Oh my holy God. You think, like, I mean, it would have been exactly the same kind of conversation as last year. Now, this year, we just lost. We got beat fine. With really no nefarious shenanigans or, game mismanagement or things like that. If you are Mario and you see that they have you flanked or whatever it was, because that was definitely an oh shit reaction. And they zoomed in on him on the sideline. He said, I mean, you saw the whites of his eyes say, "Oh my God, yo, but if you don't call that timeout and they convert, so now you're just coming back to Miami with a loss and 3 timeouts in your pocket? Come on. I mean, it's like, it's a catch-22. Like, I get that we could have called the timeout earlier, gotten the punt, had run a play before the 2-minute, but like in the scenario that presented, he had to call. If he thought we were going to get beat on that play, he had to call that timeout.
Okay. You're right. I forgot about the whole punt situation and him seeing something. Totally understand that. Absolutely. Because Georgia Tech, obviously, Brent Key coached like he had the inferior team, and he had to
Yep.
pull some stops. He knew it, and they pulled it off. Totally understand that in that situation, when you've got the inferior team and you're thinking, okay, we're going to go for it. We got a good fake punt here. We're going to call it. We're going to go for it. Okay. And Mario saw something, whether that was there or not, he's got to pull the trigger. Okay. I still go back to the timing situation before that presented itself of calling the timeout, even though you're on defense at 2:20, forcing them to punt. You get the punt at 2:15. You get to run your first play at 2:15. If you really want to amp it up, you can run 2 plays before the 2-minute timeout, but at least one, and you get the 2-minute timeout, and you just move it on from there. I just thought that he was wasting time.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. I see it both ways, with calling it at 2:20 versus letting it go down. I think I would have preferred the timeout at 2:20, but I get it. If again, you're operating under the standard practices of this year, give my quarterback the ball with 3 timeouts. 20 fewer seconds isn't going to make any kind of difference. Boom. I see where he was coming from. I guess that's a unpopular opinion and everything, but yeah, no, but I see your side also of like, hey, call it at 2:20. Even with a standard 8-second punt, you're at 2:12. You get 1 play, maybe 2 before, and you still have that timeout in there. But that's just not how it worked. And in the big moments, that where Miami had gotten conversions on offense and gotten stops on defense all season long, especially in the second half, especially when they needed it most, they came up woefully lacking, and that's why this team is now has a loss on its record. But I mean, even though that is the case, we all know that there are other games where they could have been saddled with the loss, but they were able to overcome those circumstances, specifically by the kinds of plays that I'm talking about that evaded them and eluded them all day at Georgia Tech.
And I'm not selling that as an egregious coaching error. I just would have preferred.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I understand that other viewpoint, so I see it. I see yours also, but yeah, it's not like super ridiculous or anything.
I'm trying to think what the scoring situation was. I think it was them scoring the touchdown to get them to 21-16. Why are they going for 2?
To make it a 3-point game.
I understand that, but it's like early third quarter. There's not 5 minutes left in the game.
Right, but also you've only scored 3 times. Like this is not a game where like Miami had walked up and down no, they did have a lot of yardage, but then stalled. That was only their 3rd score. So if you're like, hey, we only need 1 more score, now we can get inside the 40-yard line and our kicker is active because he's good from 55. You know what I mean? I understand it. I mean, it's just it's not 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, but like, yeah, the math is mathing. We're like, yeah, we want to get within 3 points. That means a shorter drive can bring us to, a field goal and tie the game. And if not, then we're at 4 points or 4 points or 5 points. There is no difference. We need a touchdown. So why, that's the real thing. It's not hurting you to go for 2, but it could benefit you if you get it.
If there's no more scoring in the game. That's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from, yes, in a vacuum, you want to get to within 3 rather than 4 or 5, doesn't matter. But I am anticipating more when we're talking, this was like the 2nd or 3rd drive of the 3rd quarter. That when you're anticipating, okay, if you're going to stay behind by 5 rather than cut it to 4, there's all sorts of combinations of 7s and 3s where you can get burned by doing that as well.
Yeah, I'm fair.
I'm not a big fan of doing that early.
Yeah. I mean, if you're trusting your offense more, I think I side with you. I think that Mario saw the way that the game was going and like was kind of like, I think creating the opportunity for a 3 if we can, would be more advantageous because we're actually struggling to get these touchdowns.
Again, understandable.
Yeah.